Hello, my name is Tara, and I am presenting on the Undercover Boss episode Domino's Pizza. Today is November 26th, and let's get started. So, a little bit about the agenda. I'm going to go over an introductory video, a little bit about the background of the owner, what is servant leadership, and a few examples of what servant leadership is. Okay. So that was just a short clip of the introduction of the show. During the episode, he followed three individuals. One individual was at the fastest store in Australia. One individual was actually a driver, so he was able to get that experience. One individual was a store manager. Actually, he followed four individuals. So he followed a driver, store manager at one of the busier stores in Australia. He followed a management team, couple who wanted to buy a franchise, and he later on in the show pledged to help them to do that. And then he also followed one of the stores that is actually implementing some of the futuristic things that Domino's has to offer. And so he kind of got a well-rounded experience of the show. And so we'll continue on. So a little bit about the background. The CEO, his name is Dan Mahey. He is the CEO of Domino's Pizzas Enterprises, which is primarily based in Australia and New Zealand. He's 49 years old, and one interesting fact is that he began his career delivering pizzas. So it's kind of ironic that he is a multimillionaire for a pizza chain. And I'm sure he wasn't making a quarter of what he's making now. It's pretty interesting. So from humble beginnings. So what is servant leadership? And so since taking this course, whenever I think of servant leadership, I always think of the 10 characteristics of servant leadership. And of those characteristics, I pointed out listening, empathy, awareness, commitment to the growth of the people, and building community. And I think that you can probably argue that the others are relevant to this episode as well, but those that I named are those that stood out and had more of a significance for me in this episode. Here's a picture of him following one of the individuals who worked at one of the busier stores, and he was learning to cut the pizzas here. Um, and it was interesting because he said the individual here, he said that the cutter has the most important job in the restaurant, and so it was interesting that on his first day they gave him the position of the cutter, which he did a horrible job at, but he finished nonetheless. So one of the major things about any of the Undercover Boss episodes is listening. In order to get honest feedback from the employees, the boss or CEOs, they have to listen to the people, whether they like it or not. And listening gives them insight on what's working, what's not working, gives them insight on what can be fixed, what can be changed, how to make improvements on the upper management level. And this is a key point. And so for each of the times that he was with individuals in various uh, Domino's restaurants, he did a great deal of listening, getting to know the person, the individual, getting to know what they do, how they do it, their strong point, and what kind of motivates them to continue on with Domino's, and to get some honest criticism of what's working with Domino's and what's not working, the pros and cons, so to speak. Another of the servant leadership characteristics are actually two. I clumped these two together because I kind of feel in this episode they went hand in hand. But empathy and awareness. And so in this episode, the individual here, she's a manager and she was doing a little bit of damage control because the night before the delivery, the pizza that was delivered to two customers didn't go so well. And so, what she's about to do is she's about to physically go to these individuals' homes and deliver them pizza vouchers that will, um, kind of mend the customer business relationship. Um, because, when people have a bad experience, it can leave a bad taste in their mouth. And so, she showed a great deal of empathy and awareness of the customer, and he took great note of that. And here's a clip of a little bit about what happened. And so this is a very important part of the episode because he saw the community customer relationship. And I know that, servant leadership, this episode really should be about him being a servant leadership, but I thought that the management that was already in place did a great job as well of servant leadership. And so this is just an example of the manager having empathy and being aware. And she was actually from the area, so she knew, had a bit of a connection with the individuals who lived there. And so that kind of that connection makes a huge difference, not only with the employees, but makes it a difference, if you're in the with customers or things like that. And so we'll move on. And so foresight. And so in later on in the video, you'll see one of the individuals that he shadowed, one of the drivers. And what the driver did was the driver, um, one day after their shift, took um, the CEO and they had lunch together. And this, what the individual did was he created his own pizza. And so he created his own pizza, and it turned out to be very good according to the CEO. And he wanted to bring that idea to the upper management to possibly create a new flavor, so to speak, or pizza name or topping or pizza special, however they call it. And so the individual, his name was Raj. Raj was discouraged because he was under the impression that only upper management could bring suggestions to the CEO, to the upper management to get things done, and he was uninformed. And what the CEO decided to do was to give him a voucher for his idea because he loved it so much, and then to bring that idea to upper management and possibly make changes going forward to introduce the new special to the community at large. So he had enough foresight to see that it would be good for the business and that it could possibly help the business grow. Change is good. People are always looking for something new to try. And so he had enough foresight to see beyond what was currently going on. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And so this is the individual here. I'll click the video on in a second. This is the individual Raj. But more importantly, this is a characteristic of servant leadership because it shows the commitment to the growth of the people. So a year after the episode aired, Don Mahey decided to go back to meet with those individuals just to see where they were, as how far they've come, and things like that. And so one of the individuals that I didn't mention, who actually worked at one of the busier stores, actually had a goal and a dream um, to go to college for aviation. And so what Don Mahey did at the end of the original episode was he gave him a stipend to continue his studies. And so you'll see that as well as other individuals once this video plays.
It's been a year since I was on Undercover Boss and stepped into the shoes of someone starting out in our business. And today I'm going to be hitting the road to catch up with the amazing people that I met on last year's show. First stop is the Belconnen store in Canberra to catch up with Raj and Al, one of the busiest Domino stores out of 9,500 stores on the planet. So Raj, what was it like having your own pizza? It was very good. Not yet, never. Next pizza ever. And I really enjoyed the dinner at your home. It was good. The quality of the food was fantastic. And what about the MCG? How was the experience? It was great experience. Please enjoy too much. Sal, talk to us about your flying lessons. Did you give it a go?
I did, but unfortunately I didn't have much time to finish it. On the flip side, I got an opportunity to go race the match for my franchisee. New challenge, nice to have a bit of progression.
Another very special person I met on the show last year was Louise from our Innisfail store in North Queensland. Louise. It's great to be here, and it's amazing to see that your air conditioning's working.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Working in the store and working in the car.
What happened with Cyclone Jesse?
We took pieces down to Polly and cardboard and just devastated areas and just shared what was shared with us during Larry, which is just community spirit and peace.
It was so great to catch up with the guys to see that they're continuing their Domino's journey. They really are a great reflection of the kind of people we have here at Domino's.
So I thought that was a great example of the commitment to the growth of the people, because normally you don't see that. Checking on them a year later, it's kind of, once the episode airs, that's it. So that was pretty interesting, and thought this was an interesting picture. Just the many faces of Don Mahey. How he, during the episode, he went from CEO to delivery man to answering phones to, just all around multiple faces of a Domino's worker, pretty much. So I think that was interesting. Here are my references. That is my conclusion. Just overall, I just thought that it was a very good. I thought it was a good episode. I thought that this Don May, he didn't have much to do. I thought he had a lot of good leadership in place already. I didn't think, servant leadership is about stepping in where you fit in, but I felt that overall there was good standards in place. Besides the typical needing things done. So there wasn't much for him as far as making major changes. I mean, he got air conditioning for one of the individuals in a new car, but besides that, the structure seemed pretty intact. So that was pretty interesting. Usually, when you watch these episodes, you see a huge issue that needs to be addressed right away, and I didn't see that in this episode. So that was good to hear. But all in all, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Australian workers are feeling the pain, working harder and longer. It's easy to point the finger at wealthy CEOs and ask, what about me? But some CEOs are prepared to take extreme action to find out what's going on in their own companies. Each week, we follow the boss of a major corporation as they go undercover in their own company. I can't see you. This week, one of Australia's most dynamic CEOs poses as a new recruit in his own pizza chain. This one doesn't almost fit in the box and works on the front line. He'll swap his Lamborghini for a delivery car.
We've got no air conditioning right down your window. We're going to kill ourselves in this car.
And he'll discover the unsung heroes that make his company tick.
How are you?
How will his co-workers react when they find out he is really the boss?
Wow. So kidding.
And how will it change their lives?
You know, let's put it.
Find out now in Undercover Boss Australia. Domino's Pizza serves nearly 1 million pizzas a week around Australia. It delivers a turnover of $670 million a year. And this bloke is the big cheese.
So my name is Don May, and I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Domino's Pizza Enterprises, and we operate the Domino's stores in Australia, New Zealand, France, the Netherlands, and Belgium. So we feed over 50 million pizzas a year in Australia alone. So it's an exciting business because we're very driven, we're very entrepreneurial, we're very innovative. My job is to make sure that this business has a life, that it's growing, that it's going to be here for a long term, and that ultimately everybody gets their fair share of that stake.
To the customer.
Okay,
Okay, we had a few late deliveries last night, so would you like to come for a drive?
love to.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
We've got no air conditioning right down your window. We're going to kill ourselves in this car.
We parked our oldest car, one that should have actually been retired. Doesn't have air conditioning again. I mean, it's one of the things, this is North Queensland, so not acceptable for our team members to be that way. So I want to make sure we're correcting that.
Difference between franchise and corporate store is still owned by the company.
The company being
Company being done.
American company, an Australian company.
Australian and New Zealand company, which is Don May has been the CEO of Australia and New Zealand.
Right. So this guy you thought, is he the owner of it or something? Or
He's the CEO. He's Chief Executive Officer.
okay.
But he started out same as everybody else. Down at McAnn's now, which is number 7.
You know every house in this area.
Almost. I used to live out here too. So we'll just pop in and see Leanne and give her vouchers to her. Hi Leanne, are you home? Hi. How are you today? I'm Louise from Domino's in the staff, and I apologise for last night's delay on your pizza delivery. We have 2 wonderful vouchers, and they're redeemable by that date. Okay, so whenever you see.
Louise, she didn't feel great about having to get free pizzas because she didn't want to get it wrong in the first place. And here she was personally delivering a free pizza voucher to a couple of these customers.
No. Okay, I'm terribly sorry about that. We have a free voucher for you. Okay, so anytime you're willing to come to Domino's then, and we'll help you out and make sure. Okay, thank you very much. No worries. Have a good night. Thank you. See you later.
But she's amazing. She literally is just so passionate about our business.